Hey guys, in this video I want to talk a little bit about wrenches. Now wrenches are probably the second most popular tool for taking fasteners off, right behind those ratchets that we just talked about. Now there's many different styles of wrenches. We got our angled wrenches, we've got our combination wrenches, just like that. We got our ratcheting wrenches, and we've got some little stubby wrenches, okay? And we've also got some crow's feet, and we'll talk about those in a second. And then we have our crescent wrench or adjustable wrench, okay? So let's dive right in and let's start talking about our adjustable wrench right now. So the cool thing about an adjustable wrench is that you can go ahead and you can change the size on it. Now this ability to change the size on it can be good and bad. The bad part of it is that you could not get a great fit on there. You could end up pulling on it really hard, and then it could cause the bolt to actually strip or have some wear on the edges. Now, there is a specific way to use these guys. You want to make sure that you are pushing against this adjustable jaw, and I'll show you that right now. So you'll always want to be pressing against this this adjustable jaw. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to tighten the screw down. We're going to spin it. Always moving in that towards that adjustable jaw. It's the easiest on this wrench. And then all I'm doing is moving out to the end here and really getting a good bite on it. Otherwise, these are great wrenches. We have them all over the place in the shop. I would highly recommend using a combination wrench or a wrench that's actually made for that size nut. But this is definitely a good option. Okay. So next one I want to move on to is just our combination wrench. Now, the reason it's called the combination wrench is because it has an open end wrench on one side and then a box end wrench on the other side. Now the box end wrench is just going to be a 12-point wrench. The main difference is that this will have to be slid on from the top, where the bolt will actually have to come up through it, because you can't go on from the side, while the open end wrench has that ability. This one's great for taking off things like hoses and just getting into tight spots, while this one's really good for those really stuck bolts or something that you really have to press on, because there's no way it's going to slip off. It's always going to be on there. Now while I've got this one, I wanted to also bring up our angle wrench. So this is an angle wrench. Now this wrench has a 15-degree angle for that head, while I believe this one has a 60 and a 30. So this one would be used for, and it's just got two open end wrenches. There's no box end wrench on this one. And this one would be for if you wanted to get into somewhere really tight and you had to, maybe only had a little bit of motion that you could get to. That's when you would use a wrench like this. These things are great. We don't particularly use a ton of these. Like I said, they're really kind of good for doing hoses or some really awkward stuff. And we don't do a heck of a lot of that in the classroom, so you won't see too many of these. The next thing I want to talk about is just our ratcheting wrench. And this is just a combination wrench, except the box end here is a ratchet. And this one's kind of cool. You can flip it over to change the direction. So if you're tightening something on, you might have it one way, and then you'll flip it over, tighten it on, have it the other way. Some of these box end wrenches, some of these ratchet wrenches have a flexibility right here built into the wrench. Some of them have a lever like on a ratchet so that they can be changed direction. These are great. They're really easy to use. The problem is that most of the time you need an open end wrench and a ratcheting wrench to take a nut and bolt off. So that's where I kind of find them to be a little bit unuseful. Also, this box end wrench is quite large, so it can't fit into a lot of areas. Otherwise, these things are really nice. They do slip off a little bit, but they're okay. I won't talk too much smack on them. Last thing I want to talk about is a stubby wrench. Now, a stubby wrench is about half of the length of a regular wrench. So if we put them together and compared them, you can see it's actually probably about a third of the size of this large combination wrench. Again, these ones are great for getting into tight spots. The problem is you don't have a lot of leverage. So really, if you're using one of these, you're in a really tight spot, or you've hopefully got it wedged against the side of a box or machine. That way, it can hold while you're pulling on the other side. It's great to have a little set of these. They won't be the most used things, but they are definitely worth having. Last thing I want to get into is what they call a crow's foot, and it's wrench that goes on the end of a ratchet. So I'm going to grab a ratchet and we will throw it on there. So I've got my ratchet, and all I got to do is I'm going to put it into that box end. This is really good if you wanted to get into like a really hard angle. Again, these would be used for a really tight spot. Sometimes you need a little bit of an offset, like say you can't get the wrench down exactly flat to where you need it, so you have this little bit of an offset. Or maybe you need a ton of offset, so you can get like an extension like this, and you can really get in there into a tough spot. These are, again, if you're using one of these, they're not super fun to get into. It's going to be a nasty job if you're using one of these. But so that kind of completes all the wrenches that we have in the shop. There are some other style wrenches. You get some like flare nut style wrenches, and then like some special hydraulic wrenches and things like that. But you won't be using a lot of those. Usually like flare nuts are used on air systems for diesels, and hydraulics, like hydraulic wrenches are not super popular anymore. They used to be very popular. And that kind of completes a good overview of every type of wrench that you'll be possibly coming in contact in the classroom. So go ahead and move on.